Hi, everyone. This video is for everyone. So, new volunteers, returning volunteers, hall monitors, classroom teachers, and substitutes. This will cover some of the basic logistics in the program. So, the first thing I want to mention is I will have substitutes for each grade level. Those substitute teachers, if they're working in to support the catechetical years, they're going to have some pre-planned lessons that they'll implement in your classroom. Unless you've been working really closely with your subs, which you might do, and they can actually execute one of your planned lessons. This is a way of giving substitutes some time to prepare before stepping in an unexpected situation. For those who are substituting for year 1 and year 2, they will teach the lesson that you would otherwise be teaching according to the calendar. Now, if you are a classroom teacher and you are sick on Monday, still kind of sick on Tuesday, and you're not sure whether or not you're going to be there on Wednesday, if you think there's any chance that you're not going to be there, go ahead and pull the trigger and contact the sub. Worst case scenario is you wake up on Wednesday and you're fine, and you can tell that sub, it's okay, I'll be there to teach tonight. It's really helpful if we give substitutes to 24 hours or 48 hours ahead if there's going to be a substitution for illness. Now, if you have a planned outing, like you have parent-teacher conferences that you scheduled in a couple of weeks, that's a good time to loop substitute teachers in on your planned absence so they can prepare for that lesson. Sometimes emergencies happen, you get a bug, or there's, God forbid, some other family emergency that's going to take you away from class. Try to contact me as soon as possible and your sub. We'll see if the sub can step in kind of at the last minute, but that's a little bit harder to support. So just so you guys know the protocol for substitutes. The second point I want to make is we will continue to provide volunteers with weekly support emails. And those emails will include pertinent information for all volunteers, but they're also going to include lesson prep videos for my year 1 and year 2 teachers. Those videos are 10 to 20 minutes each. They are intended to help my sacramental preparation volunteers to prepare their own lessons. Watch them if you find them helpful. You don't have to watch them if you feel pretty confident preparing your own lessons, but we want to provide you with the needed resources so that it makes it a little easier for you to do this amazing work. Another thing I want to mention, we will continue to take attendance in the classroom using a Google form. So you can either scan a QR code with your phone and take attendance on your phone and submit that form, or you'll be able to do it on a computer, a Chromebook at kind of my check-in station. So one way or another, please help me by providing attendance for your class, especially for year 1 and year 2 teachers, because if a student misses a class, they need to do that makeup lesson online. We will have a similar volunteer check-in process. It may be using that same form as in the past. It might be a different check-in process. So that helps me to try to keep track of who is here and who is not. And when there's a case of consistent absences, it's difficult for me to notice those across 50 to 60 volunteers unless I have a way of trying to identify routine absences. If a volunteer is missing a lot of classes, I'm going to check in with them, see what's going on, and we might have to make other arrangements, which is very difficult in the middle of the year. So if you have something change in your life, please let me know as soon as possible. If you need to take a new job, if your family has to move, those things are unavoidable. It just helps for me to know so that we can pivot in the middle of the year. Now, I mentioned a moment ago for students in year 1 and year 2 who miss a lesson due to an absence, they're going to need to do that lesson at home. And I've spent some time over the summer trying to restructure how to present that missed lesson to students in an easier to access way, in a more trackable way. And I'm going to be using a Google form, which will also automatically notate that the work is completed. So that's going to be, the way that we manage those missed lessons. And teachers, you guys may be copied on the occasional email notification But it's up to parents to complete the work, and they might just need you to sometimes prompt or explain to them if they haven't made up those missing lessons. So if you can just nudge parents that have, 2 or 3 missed lessons, just say, hey, watch for those emails from Kit on the reverse of your physical sign-in board. Or another, easy to access method, I will have QR codes so that each family can quickly go and see kind of all the details about their student in year 1 or year 2, different attendance, what I might be missing, how, what they've completed so far. I want that to be really easy for families to access. Now, speaking of family requirements, for year 1 and year 2 families, we have a certain amount of requirements that families need to participate in as they go through our sacramental preparation program. All adults need to attend adult formation. They can choose the class that they attend. It's actually not meant to be hugely catechetical. It's more intended for them to reset in their own relationship with God as adults. Sometimes parents get into a pattern where they feel that it's too late for God to love them, or that they can never be redeemed. That's just not true. We know it's not true. So these adult formation classes, they are a requirement, but they're a requirement because we've seen the fruits. We've seen people come back to church, increase in their relationship with God. We've actually seen volunteers get involved here because of some of these adult formation classes. So it's been very powerful. Families going through sacraments, they need to provide records to us, either a baptism record if their kiddo is baptized, or a birth certificate if their children are going to be baptized, as well as receiving their other sacraments at the end of the process. Families who are going through sacramental preparation, they need to attend 3 First Wednesday Masses every year, and they'll have 6 to choose from, so they need to attend half of those. Families also need to attend at our various sacramental retreats, which happen in the second half of the year. For year 1 families, they're expected to meet with a guide. It's kind of like a mentor. It's someone to accompany them through the program, through the process, maybe direct them to adult formation that might be especially powerful for them. And then for year 2 families, those families are going to need to identify a suitable sponsor for their child, and they'll need to help their child identify a saint name to take as part of confirmation. And just so that you guys know, you who are year 2 teachers, please let me know if you are not eligible to serve as a sponsor. Because in the case a family cannot find sponsors for their child, I'm going to really invite those families to select you as a sponsor. You've literally been preparing their children this whole time, which is what a sponsor does. Sponsors need to have all of their sacraments of initiation, so baptism, confirmation, Eucharist. If they're married, they need to have been married in the church. Otherwise, they can be living a single life. If they're divorced, they just can't be remarried. A suitable sponsor needs to kind of conform with Catholic law, which means, attending weekly Mass, going to reconciliation once a year, taking the Eucharist once a year, particularly at Easter. So those are kind of the bare minimums. So just to give you guys a little bit of preparation, you who are year 2 teachers may be asked to sponsor a child or 2, which means pray for them, help them through this year, and pray for them in the future. If the family reaches out and wants to stay in touch, you can kind of decide what you want to do. All right, last 2 things. We are going to have some emergency preparedness procedures. So all volunteers are going to review that at the beginning of the year. That's particularly what do we do if there's a fire alarm, and what do we do if there is a kind of lock-in situation, say there were to be an active shooter. We've never experienced such a thing, but we're trying to make sure that we are prepared for anything. So watch for some emergency preparedness as we begin our training. That's going to happen during our volunteer in-service. And then finally, we have increased our access to televisions and have better access to TVs in most of our classrooms. Many of our classrooms are going to have fixed TVs on the wall. There'll be smart TVs that you can even Chromecast to from your own personal device, or we have Chromebooks that you can check out and put the HDMI cable into. So we want you to have all the resources that you might need to stimulate and supplement your lessons. So thank you guys for all that you do, and continue watching all of these videos. Cheers.